was kind of worn off after a New Year's Six appearance in 2021. All right. Speaking of some of the good aromas wearing off, let's get to Oklahoma State. the, the Cowboys 6-7 in 2022, 4-5 in the Big 12, a loss to Wisconsin in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. A tale of basically two seasons for Oklahoma State. A 5-0 start in 2022, 2-6 finish. Struggled to score points. They scored fewer than 20 points in 5 of their 6 losses last year during the regular season. This was a team that was 97th in rushing offense, 49th in scoring offense, 52nd in total offense. And Spencer Sanders is gone. He transfers to Ole Miss. Redshirt senior Alan Bowman is expected to start. You lose your leading rusher to Baylor, Dominique Richardson. We just talked about him. The wide receiver unit loses its some depth. You lose Bryson Green to Wisconsin, Braden Johnson to the NFL. And defensively, they were really, really bad, as we talked about with basically every team in this league. 115th in total defense, 106th in passing defense, and 101st in total defense. A new DC for Mike Gundy. Mike Gundy, one of the longest tenured coaches in the league. One of those steady programs, a little bit like Wisconsin, like a Utah, Kansas State, but certainly a down year for Oklahoma State. They struggled to score in a lot of games. I think a lot of questions heading into.
I agree. And I was telling you this. Obviously, they played Wisconsin in the bowl game, so I watched a lot of that game, and it just felt like you watched the team, you watched Gundy on the sidelines. It looked like they were just ready just to kind of pack it up. Let's show up, and then let's just get the heck out of here. And I don't think it's great vibe, especially when your defensive coordinator last year, Derek Mason, basically decides he just wants to take a sabbatical from coaching after after last year. And you mentioned, the losses, Spencer Sanders, and all they have on offense. This was not a good defense last year. Prior to 2021, where they were one of the best units in the country under Jim Knowles, who then leaves for Ohio State. But even their best players on this defense this year are gone. They only have one returning player in the secondary because Jason Taylor, who is an All-American safety, he's
Yep.
gone. Mason Cobb, who we talked about with USC, he transfers there. Your leading tackler, he's gone.
Yep. Tyler
So
Lacey gone.
Tyler Lacey gone. And to me, like, these are key contributors. Like, these guys, for a program that has had as much success as Oklahoma, you should not be losing this many good players in one cycle if there's not maybe something going on with the culture, with the locker room. I mean, they brought in some good transfers on the offensive side, like Deshaun Stribling was really, really good wide receiver at Washington State to help replace some of those. Arlen Bruce, who was at Iowa, didn't get used much, but I think his skill set will be better in this type of offense. But I could just see them having another rebuilding year defensively. Again, they're bringing in their third coordinator in 3 years, and then replacing still a lot of production from players that were really, really good. So as you can tell, at least looking at the roster, not super high on Oklahoma State this year.
Oklahoma State is an interesting case study in betting their over under, right? So the over under is 6.5. Over is -124, under +102. Lucas and I talked for 5 minutes about the losses and the state of the program and rebuilding. But you look at the schedule. The 3 non-conference games are Central Arkansas, South Alabama, at Arizona State. This is their Big 12 road schedule. Iowa State, West Virginia, UCF, and Houston. All 4 of those teams have an over-under of fewer wins than they do. Kansas State, Kansas, Cincinnati, Oklahoma, BYU at home. No Texas, no TCU on the schedule. Kansas State, Kansas, and Oklahoma at home. Because of that, I'm going to take over 6.5 wins, and it's really a play on the schedule. They get Arizona State in week 2 when I think they will win that game, but I that's a lot. They could lose, but I see them going 3-0 in the non-conference, and then you just got to get 4 Big 12 wins. And Iowa State and West Virginia are games I think you'd want on the road. UCF and Houston as well. And you'd want Kansas State, Kansas, and Oklahoma at home. Do I feel great about it? No. Do I trust Alan Bowman, who's been in college since the probably Trump administration? Like, probably not. I mean, he was probably like, when I read the words Alan Bowman, I'm like, Alan Bowman's still in
Oh,
college? What the
same.
heck's going on? But they have, in my opinion, the most favorable schedule in the Big 12.
Yeah.
And this is still a team that's a year removed away from playing for a Big 12 championship. I'm going to take over. I think 7-5 is a likely um, is feasible. I should say. I don't know if it's likely. I think it's feasible.
I'm going under. And once again, this is another, I'm not trying to be hot takey or anything. They could have a similar, the vibes I'm getting from this are Herm Edwards vibes at ASU.
Wow, interesting.
Just with the loss of talent that they had, the we've seen, yes, they had that good year 2 years ago where they were 1 inch away from winning a Big 12 title. But this feels like there's been kind of a trend with Oklahoma State. We had, during COVID, you had almost a player mutiny for Mike Gundy. You had guys leaving out before then and kind of getting tired of kind of his kind of outlandish personality. I don't love it. And you talked about, yeah, they have to go at ASU. South Alabama's not going to be a slouch game. South Alabama
Yeah,
almost won the Sun Belt last year, was one of the top defensive teams in the country. That could be a game that kind of sneaks up on you. I just, yes, the schedule is really, really good, but even if they go 6-6, 7-5, I think you have to take a real hard look at this program. But I just don't love the vibes around it. I think when you try to build your team back up with just transfers, I don't think it's necessarily a recipe for success. So I'm going under. I would love to be wrong. I like Oklahoma State a lot, but I'm a vibes guy right now, and I don't like the
love it.
vibes at
I
Oklahoma
love
State.
it. All right. All right. Fair enough. All right. Let's get to our first new entrant into the conference. It's the